Hey guys, I'm back. So this is going to be on the second part of the video, and it's going to be about the medical aspects of circumcision. So first, sorry to get this set up, we're going to use the most prominent argument, the most used argument, the well-known argument, which is that circumcised penises are cleaner because they are easier to clean, and that so they don't store as much bacteria. Now, obviously, the foreskin is an extra piece of skin over the head of the penis, so if you do not clean it and you do not remove the smegma that builds up, it will store bacteria due to the warmth and the sweat, and it is imperative to clean your penis. But not only for uncircumcised penises, also circumcised penises. In America, the vast majority of people have access to running clean water through showers or baths, so to say that you don't have access to these things is an absolute lie. Unless your argument is that men are basically smooth-brained and don't understand the importance of cleaning their own penis, I don't know what your argument is. Instead of spending the money to circumcise your son at birth, you could just spend the first developmental years of his life teaching him how to clean himself. If a man showers every single day and cleans his penis, basically if he cleans his penis, there'll be no bacterial buildup, and that could result in any illness, sickness, or stink. And for circumcised men to claim that they don't stink because they're circumcised, that's just an absolute lie. It's a lie. The second argument is the original argument of phimosis. So that's when the foreskin can't retract. But however, with medical advances and discoveries, they found out that most foreskin remain unretracted until the toddler years. Phimosis is normal for a baby. In the 1950s, a scientist named Gardner worked for the National Health Service in the UK and found out that all these things about circumcision and presented it to the public, and within 10 years, circumcision fallen 10%. And currently, the rate of circumcision in England is less than 6%, so with proper education, trends can change. Gardner found that the information presented for causes of circumcision, like venereal diseases and cervical cancer, just had no evidence. It was made up. So the CDC actually still promotes circumcision, and it says that it reduces the risk of UTIs, STDs, and penis cancer. Now, I think there's special interest, but that's neither here nor there. But I'm going to debunk each one of these arguments. First, UTIs. Now, you never really hear of men getting UTIs because the urethral tract for a man is much longer than it is for women. So it's harder for bacteria to get all the way up to the bladder. If you're a man and you're not familiar with UTIs, it's basically a bladder infection, and the symptoms are burning pee, urinary urgency, and worst case scenarios, blood in the urine. But I don't think it's very common. You can also have symptoms of irregular sickness such as pains, chills, or even vomiting. The cause of UTIs is usually E. coli, which is already in your body, but the bacteria goes to your urethra and gets into your bladder. So even if a man is having sex with a woman with a UTI, it's still rare for them to get a UTI. The most common group of men to get the infection are older, and it's less likely to be from sex. It's usually from issues surrounding the bladder itself. 5 to 8 men per 10,000 get a UTI before the age of 50. Now, obviously, UTIs suck, but most women can say it's not that big of a deal. We pretty much have all had one at least once in our lives. Antibiotics are the typical cure for it, but sometimes you can just drink cranberry juice and take over-the-counter medicine and you'll be okay. It's definitely not that big of a deal, and definitely not something to justify cutting off the foreskin. So next argument is HPV. So it's the most common the most common STI in the world. It is responsible for 70% of cervical cancers and 50% of penis cancers. Now, this sounds really scary, but 90% of HPV infections are resolved within the body within 2 years because of immune responses and medicine. There's been a push for many young girls to get the HPV vaccine before they're even sexually active because of how much it does cause cervical cancer. Circumcision is considered another preventative tool for cervical cancer, and they've done a study that I linked below in Uganda saying that it reduces cervical cancer by 28%. Now, this obviously takes years to figure out if this is actually true or what that means, but I don't think this applies to America regardless. Circumcision is used in African countries as a way to prevent STDs, and it is highly effective. So I don't argue against circumcision in those circumstances because there's a barrier in communication, education, that prevent them from making wise choices about sex. And there's already such a high rate of STDs there. The difference between America and other Western countries is that we have an extremely advanced knowledge of sex and the risk. There are condoms, and I think people should be responsible enough to have safe sex. So if you're going to say that you need to be circumcised so you can have a lesser risk of getting an STD, but you're not using condoms, you're not taking preventative measures, that's just silly, and that's obviously not an applicable argument. I'm also against the vaccine for HIV because of how dangerous it has been for girls. And I think taking vaccines for precautions like that are kind of stupid. I mean, obviously you can have rape or medical negligence, but if you're having unsafe sex, there's going to be consequences, and we as Americans are aware of this. Now, the next argument is penis cancer. Now, if you or anyone you love has been affected by penis cancer, you are now entitled to financial compensation. I don't want to make a joke of it, but clearly this is rare. I've never heard of anyone who had penis cancer, because there's less than 20,000 cases of penis cancer in the United States. Now, you can say, well, that sounds like a lot, but you can compare this to lung cancer, which is approximately 200,000 cases per year in the United States, and it's still considered rare. 1 out of every 100,000 men will get it per year in North America and Europe. When men use this as a reason why they want to circumcise their sons, I have to laugh. If you are truly concerned about cancer prevention for your children, you would not be feeding them McDonald's, processed foods, soda, etc. Childhood obesity is a huge problem, no pun intended, and that will cause things such as heart disease and eventually cancers, regardless. See, if parents were super concerned about cancer, they would be taking all these precautions and making sure their kids are healthy. And if they were doing that, then I'd be completely fine with them being for circumcision because of this. But that's not the case. People aren't thinking 50 years ahead of their kid's life. So that's that. The next argument is regarding HIV. But my argument towards HPV applies. If people take precautions in their sexual life, that will drastically decrease their chance of HIV, and a circumcision at birth is not necessary. Also, the studies only involve heterosexual couples. HIV is definitely not as common as it used to be, and it can be treated with medication. And we are constantly taught as Americans the procedures of safe sex, and if you follow those procedures, you're way less likely to develop HIV. Obviously, there's medical negligence and issues with blood transfusions, but a circumcised penis or lack thereof would have nothing to do with it unless you're in the hospital because you have to treat your penis cancer because you didn't get circumcised, and then you accidentally get AIDS from it. But I highly doubt that's going to happen. So if anyone else has any other diseases that you make up that can be cured with circumcision, please let me know because I will debunk them. So I'm actually going to end it here, and in the next video I'm going to be talking about the medical problems that come with circumcision. So the side effects of it, the risk of it. So